We've covered how to spot a psychopath or sociopath before, but we've never gone this in-depth on the clinical diagnosis behind them, antisocial personality disorder. Welcome to the MedCircle series, Antisocial Personality Disorder, Psychopaths, Sociopaths, and How to Spot Them. I loved you in this series more than maybe I've ever loved you.
Oh, it's an evolving relationship then. It's
We're
healthy
evolving.
then.
The reason though is because I think you were more brutally honest than you've ever been.
You know, listen, I'll tell you this. There are some things we talk about on MedCircle where there's a lot of pain and suffering for the person experiencing it. I think of our series on anxiety disorders.
Yeah.
I think of our series on borderline personality. These are people who are experiencing a lot of subjective discomfort. They really, really are. This group, not so much subjective discomfort. They're causing a lot of discomfort for other people.
Well, and that's the thing.
You know, and some people say, but they had a tough start. I said, you know, most people who have a tough start don't go out and victimize other people. And the utter lack of insight and the utter lack of commitment to change and the fact that our culture somehow reveres and celebrates. It's like, doesn't matter how you win the game as long as you win. That kind of thinking is becoming more and more normative.
Yeah.
And people with this pattern of antisocial personality disorder, psychopathy, sociopathy, and all these variants, they're advantaged in that situation, which means there's less empathy at the top, that there's less value on things that make us human and connected and have each other's back. And it's just sort of every man for himself or every woman for herself rather than a sense of community. I, as a psychologist, have a problem with that.
Yeah.
So I was willing to be brutally honest under these conditions.
Well, and when I say brutally honest, it's just you telling the truth.
No, I really am.
It's not you going, rah, rah, rah. I don't mean that. People will see when they watch the series.
Yeah.
It's just you telling it like it is. And when we deal with reality, we can make better decisions.
Well, I'm never going to be your warm and fuzzy psychologist. I am not the sunshine
warm
and
and
rainbows.
fuzzy every now and
I
then.
get warm and fuzzy. I do get warm and fuzzy, and I'm actually an extraordinarily warm and fuzzy person, as long as it's reciprocal and mutual.
Yes, yeah.
But what I don't like doing is giving people sort of artificial feel-good moments that actually set them up for another fall.
Absolutely.
I'd rather give them like the real deal, even if the real deal is uncomfortable, and then let them make their decisions accordingly. That's how I engage in consultation and clinical, in clinical work, and how I teach students, all of that. I can't guarantee that somebody armed with that reality will necessarily make the healthy decision, but I at least can rest assured knowing that I gave them accurate information.
Do you think that's why viewers respond so positively to you?
Do they respond positively? I don't even know. I don't know.
Do you guys like her or not? I get a lot of comments on my social media and my email. My email is kyle@medcircle.com. Send it my way. I'm happy to chat with you. I get a lot of comments. And I would say they just really point out to your little antidotes, your metaphors, your big actionable advices in a way that's changing their lives. I think people do like you.
That means a lot to me.
Yeah.
You know what? I think that when you're an undergraduate teacher for so many years and they're getting more and more inattentive all the time, so I'm trying to keep their attention, you do become a teacher, and it makes me so happy to hear that. You make this content and you don't know if anyone is going to see it. I have to say, 10 years ago, when I started working in this area of more toxic and difficult relationships, if you will, narcissistic, psychopathic, sociopathic, all of that, I was kind of laboring kind of quietly by myself in a room thinking, I'll reach a handful of people and that'll be the end of it, and I'll grow old and it'll be fine. I never dreamed that the world would take the changes it did. Nothing prepared me for this. It was like you were studying some weird, obscure disease that nobody cared about, and one day it became an epidemic.
Well, it did.
And there it was. And so I think that what devastates me, I've said this on MedCircle before, I'll say it again, is the loss of human potential I see when people get sucked into relationships where they're devalued and invalidated and negated and dehumanized and mocked and abused. Those people internalize those mocking voices and their echoes that play in their, and I see how much of people we lose and how much of their words need to come to the world, and they don't even think their words are worthy, and their efforts and their work. And so it's really about educating them about what happened to them so that they can take their lives back. That's my personal mission.
Yeah.
If it's reaching the viewers, I'm so happy to hear that, but I ain't giving this up.
I know it is, and I hope and think that this series will do it on an even larger level. So. I'm going to ask you this question, but I don't want you to answer it right now. I want you to think of your favorite moment of the series we just shot. Okay, now it can't be me, Dr. Ramani. I am not a moment. You create the moments, okay? And while you think of that, I just want to tell viewers what they can expect throughout this series. And remember, you can go to MedCircle.com and subscribe to watch this series. We talk about cluster B personality disorders, what they need to know about that. There are 4 personality disorders in that cluster B. We talk about that. That video is separate from the series, but we filmed it today. We talk about antisocial personality disorders, psychopaths and sociopaths, what makes them different, how they are somewhat similar, when they get misinterpreted as narcissism, other disorders that are often misdiagnosed, co-occurring disorders. We talk about the causes of psychopaths and sociopaths. Are they born? Are they made? Is it both? We talk about how to spot the signs in a psychopath. We talk literally the questions you can ask or the signs that you can look out for when you're talking to someone, both for psychopaths and sociopaths. And then we go on to talk about whether or not antisocial personality disorder, sociopathy, and psychopathy can be cured and what treatments are available for those people. And then we go through what supporters can do if you're dealing with a significant other who has an antisocial personality disorder, if a coworker, if a boss, if your child does, what you can do. Actionable, big takeaway pieces of advice from Dr. Ramani herself. This was a long series, and we covered a lot of stuff. Now, what was your big takeaway? What was your favorite moment?
I always welcome the opportunity to see if we can ever get ahead of heartache. And one thing I really thought we were able to make the point in this series is that when people, we're talking about relationships with psychopaths or sociopaths or people with antisocial personality disorder, that the writing was on the wall from the beginning. And that if this might stop someone from entering or staying in one of these relationships, or that they can impart that wisdom to someone else.
Big.
That, that the not getting in the first place is the best prevention of all. And the sense that sometimes that sort of the desperate rush to get married, to be in a relationship, and to let yourself get blinded to patterns that are not good for you. These folks often take advantage of that vulnerability in people, and the smoothness, the glibness, so many people out there in the world think they don't deserve a relationship. So they'll enter into one with somebody who doesn't treat them well. And I think that everyone deserves to be loved and loved well.
Yes.
And that if it's anything less than that, to give yourself permission to step away.
Yes. To step away and to step into something that is more valuable.
Yes, yeah. and to learn to really value themselves. I'm not even going to say love yourself, that sounds so cliche, but to learn to value yourself.
Yeah.
Because when you value yourself, you treat yourself with value, and you tend to be able to keep up the gates so that people who don't value you don't get in. You've got to be your own gatekeeper. Ain't nobody else going to do that for you.
Thank you.
You've got to be your own gatekeeper. You are precious.
Yeah.
In that way, protect yourself.
Yeah. I love that. My big takeaway was that, I had 400,000 of them, and I talk about them in the series, but is that the simple act of consciousness and being mindful can be that prevention.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or at least can lead you to those better decisions, that better life.
Yep.
And we talk about how to actually apply that. It's easy to say, well, be mindful, and then, that's easily said, but we really talk about actual steps that they can take and what that looks like when you are mindful, so that you can take your life, and if it's already pretty good, make it great, And if it's not good, make it great.
Yes,
because
exactly.
you said it in the series, I want people to live their optimal life.
Their best lives, and then best, and just to honor that and becomes, to actualize themselves, to open themselves up to potential and possibility. So many people feel like they don't have the right to that. It doesn't have to be anything grandiose. It could just simply being life in a serene way, in a peaceful way. You don't have to follow anyone else's formula. And I think that, unfortunately, that when people get into these kinds of toxic relationships, it's often because they're not living authentically. They're not living, honoring their inner voices. Because I think then at those times, people may actually give themselves permission to walk away. If it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck,
it's a duck. Just
or
filling
a
that in for the
psychopath.
few people. It's a psychopath. Her next book. That resonates so much with me, what you said. I mean, I actually get chills and goosebumps. That resonates so much. I know that you will love this series. You can go to MedCircle.com and become a subscriber. You can access this series. You can access other series on a variety of mental health topics that matter to you. Your education and this education makes a difference in your life. So take the time, go to MedCircle.com and subscribe. And thank you so much for taking your mental health seriously.